Well, Planet Care is a startup. We are a startup. And it's very simple what we do. We make filters to take microfibers out of the wastewater that comes out of everybody's laundry, out of your washing machine. Approximately 60% of your clothes, of our clothes, is made of synthetic materials. So you got polyesters, polyamides, and all these fancy things. They are, in fact, plastics. And when you wash your clothes, every time, you have fibers coming out, and they go into the sewage. Depending what happens with the sewage, they continue into the rivers, into the oceans, every time. And you can try that. It's very simple. Take the hose out of the wall that takes the water from your machine, run it through a hanky or a t-shirt, take something white, and see what comes out. And you'll see fibers come out. You'll see them. It's not rocket science. They come out all the time. If you talk with somebody who fixes your machine, they'll tell you they find fibers within your machine, and they don't like this very much because it gets clogged and so on. All the time. And we don't know about it. That's the problem, actually. But we know something, that approximately 30 to 35% of the microplastics that we like to talk about in the oceans are in fact fibers. They're not little pieces that we can see, they're fibers we can't see. They're 10, 20 microns thick, and they're all over the place. And they're really all over the place because I was asking my colleagues, I'm a scientist, I was asking the scientific community, how, in their opinion, do microplastics affect climate change? And I didn't get any real good answers, to be very honest, but then I got one, and they said, well, but climate change will affect microplastics because when the ice starts melting, you will have a release of microplastics and fibers into the ocean. So they're really everywhere. And what we started doing, okay, I'm going too far into this, what we started doing is, okay, let's make a filter so we can get these fibers out. I was doing science on this before, I even published on it. I was frustrated to the end because I thought, well, this can be done. We can stop this. Why are we not doing it? And then luckily, I was able to join the team at Planet Care, and we now, after approximately 1 year of work, we're selling filters. We have our products. We have a stand over there. You can order it online. We're actually coming out with the second product right now to start selling, and we want to make the impact. And I would urge everybody, because I see a lot of young people and obviously interested people, but also older people. I'm not that young, actually. When you see a problem that's not being addressed, that bothers you, you can address it. We can do it. We have to find a smart way to do it, but we can do it. Because we can't just wait for somebody to do it. People ask me oh, shouldn't washing machines have filters? Yes, they should, but they don't. And nobody's putting them in. I don't know why. They know about this. They have hundreds of engineers and R&D departments and so on. They know about microplastics. They know about fibers. They know much more than we do. But they're not doing it. And we need to push them, in fact.
So I find that really interesting because to me, I think of clothes as, I think of fibers, but I don't think of them as plastic, right? Did anybody else think of plastic for your clothes? No? Because it just doesn't occur to us, but it makes sense now when you think, well, there's synthetic materials. We're not doing 100% cotton anymore. Actually, there's a lot of synthetic materials. And what is the synthetic? It's plastic. So I learned a lot just in talking to you before this and understanding that 60% of clothing is plastic. So essentially what you've done is you found a filter to put in the washing machine. And why did you choose to tackle the washing machine rather than further down the line? Why didn't you go to the manufacturers? Why are we looking at the machines?
Well, the washing machine is the core of this, because that's where all the fibers actually come from. You can catch them further on, let's say in a wastewater treatment plant, but then it's already mixed with other stuff. you're not getting, you're not having an easier job. And also, once you mix different materials together, your options what to do with them, I mean, this is classical waste management theory. Once you have them all mixed together, you have a problem. So take them out at the source, and the washing machine is the source. And it can be done. I believe that in 5-10 years, every washing machine will be regulated to have a filter. Because this is exactly like the catalyst or the particle filter that you have in your car. It wasn't done by the car manufacturers because they wanted to help the planet or something like that. It was required because we understood that something needs to be done. And the washing machine is the core of this, really.
So here's a question. It seems like such a really obvious solution. I mean, sitting here now, it's kind of like, oh, that makes sense. Why don't we just stop it at the source? So do you have any idea why we haven't looked at this before? Because it's a really cool idea to say, actually, we all wash our clothes. It's the simplest thing that we could do to support not polluting the ocean, to just say, well, we'll just stop that fiber getting in there at all. Why do you think it's such a simple, I'm kind of playing it down a lot because I'm sure there's a lot of technology that goes behind it. But why do you think such a simple solution has taken such a long time for us to do something about it?
No, it is simple. I fully agree with you. It is simple. But why? Because we didn't know. We weren't thinking about it. Look, the marine litter issue came out with Charles Moore when he was sailing around. And that's been what? A max of 10, 15 years now that we're talking about it. And we were talking about marine litter. First this was odd, then it went around. And then we started looking at it further and further. And then microplastics. Microplastics haven't been spoken about 10 years ago. And where we're going right now is finding the sources. Where are these particles coming from? And I can tell you that we are still, in fact, discovering where the plastics are coming from. We know they're in the oceans, but where are they coming from? And there are some very, very obvious sources that we haven't closed yet. And I think we should, identify these sources still, and I can tell you they're there. For example, you have the, microbeads in cosmetics. I mean, a really stupid idea to put plastic particles in your toothpaste. I mean, we didn't know about it, and there's a realization, understanding, outcry, and luckily now we're getting these bits of plastic out of our toothpaste, out of our shampoos, whatever. It makes sense, but we didn't know about it. And the same goes with fibers. We didn't actually realize it. Everybody was doing it, and then went like, And the first publication on that was, I think in 2011, there was a little paragraph, and we did a test, and we had, I don't know how many, 160,000 fibers. That was the first time, 2011, that we started thinking about it. And it's understandable because, you have to think about it. Plastics had this explosive growth, after a Second World War. It's unbelievable. If you look at the chart, how plastic use goes up, it's unbelievable. It hasn't happened yet. And of course, there weren't that many plastics to spill over into the environment. So this wasn't an issue.
So this is wonderful. I love what you say. Actually, it's so, because many of us have grown up with plastics in such a big way, we forget that it's pretty new, actually. It's not, it's not like paper. It hasn't been around for hundreds of years. It's a pretty new phenomenon, and with science where it exploded really quickly. So we've introduced a ton of them really, really quickly. But back to the positive. You now have a filter that we could use that would help to make sure that we weren't adding more microplastics through our clothing. Because all of us wash our clothes, I should hope. All of us wash our clothes or have them washed for us in some very privileged states. I'm not looking at anybody in particular. But how does it work? So if somebody is listening today and they think, well, this sounds really exciting. Here's something, the conference is called ChangeNOW. Here's something I could do now to make a difference. I'm washing clothes on a weekly basis. How does it work and how easy is it to implement? How do we get one?
Well, It's very easy. We have filters that can go onto existing washing machines in different ways. They're very efficient. They've been lab tested independently. They capture 80% of the fibers. And of course, with a filter, you need to compromise how well you capture whatever you're getting out, filtering, and how long it takes till you clog the filter up. Our filters capture 80% plus of the fibers, and they will last for 1 month in your machine. A filter has a cartridge, you replace it. We have a circular model, so we can send the cartridges around so we don't actually catch a little bit of fibers and throw a lot of plastics away, which would be really
kind of defeat the point of the exercise.
Exactly. Well, no, the first objective really is not to let fibers go into the water. That's the first objective. But still, these filters can go onto existing machines. You can order it on our website. You have to tell us which type of machine you have. That's one type. And then there's a generic filter that goes on all machines. As I said, there's a cartridge that you replace. It's simple. It's not expensive either. And we can implement it. We also have B2B solutions, but those will need to be implemented by appliance makers. And then also we have a third series, which is more commercial, industrial, and those are larger filters.
So how big do you think this can get? What impacts do you is your vision, is I suppose where I'm getting to. My words are starting to go blah, blah, now. But what's your bigger vision for what you can do with this sort of technology?
Well, I had to write the impact assessment as well, because we're a team of 5, 6 people, and we all have day jobs. Yesterday I was on vacation from my job, being here, enjoying it. So we have to do all sorts of things. But our impact sort of calculation was that within 5 years we can get 130, I think, 1 tons of fibers, and we're talking about 10, 20 micron fibers, and very short, out of the system, just by a very, I would say, conservative estimate. Of course, if we get more support, if the filters are accepted widely, then of course this can go on. But 130 tons, I was just before thinking about it, would fill, I think, a big part of this area.
And we're talking microfibers, so when you really put it into context, it's not even something you can see. That's a huge amount. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, please give an absolute warm round of applause to Andrej Krzan. Thank you.